So it's interesting because I didn't grow up listening to them at all. Like pretty much my parents didn't listen to anything interesting. I'm not interesting, but I pretty much just grew up on like 90s stuff that was on the radio, and it was just they like couldn't care less about music, which is really weird because me and my brother both play music. But it was when we started touring, and we had our sound guy. His name's Gary Farinchek, and he was born in like the 60s, like late 60s, I think. And he just would always just show me stuff. And I remember it was really strange because I remember being like, hey, I want to like try and listen to Stones. And I didn't know where to start. So I started at on the record Emotional Rescue. And the first song is called Dance Part 1. And it's like one of the craziest Stone songs ever. And I was like, I don't get it. This is so weird. And so I was like, I don't know. I'll put that aside for a little while. And then, I don't know, maybe 6 months later, I was listening to the record Some Girls, and I just fucking fell in love with it. And yeah, since then, they've changed my world. So starting out, I wanted to be in a band for as long as I can remember. And then my buddy started playing with his friend, and then and I would just go listen to them. And I had a bass, but I didn't really know how to play it. And then their bass player quit, and he was just like, hey, come play. And I pretty much figured out how to play by making songs. And then just along the way, I've learned other things that made me interested. But yeah, it wasn't like I've always just been a huge fan and wanted to do it, but it really took me to join a band when I was 12 to actually start playing and learning how to do it. And I'd say I'm still pretty bad at it today. Yeah, I saw them. We had a meeting in California about it was their 50-year anniversary tour that they did, and me and I pretty much forced Pat and Kenny and everyone else to become huge Stones fans. And on the way to California, we heard that they were playing in Anaheim that night. So we ended up getting to California, renting a car, and buying tickets on the way. I think the show was sold out, and somehow we bought like tickets for like $300, and we're like, dude, it's their 50-year. Like, there's no way they're gonna keep touring. This was like almost a decade ago, but it was fucking awesome because Dave Grohl ended up playing the song "Bitch" with them. He came out and played guitar with them, and it was fucking awesome. And also that show, like one of my favorite songs by them is the last song on Some Girls called "Shattered." And they hadn't been playing it at all, and for some reason they played it that night, and I was like, fuck yeah. But the song's so funny because it's just like this riff just over and over, pretty much. It's kind of punky, but it just is this one guitar riff over and over, and you could tell they didn't know how to finish it because the song on the record just kind of like stops, and they just keep playing, and then like you see them all looking back at Charlie, their drummer, and all of a sudden he just goes like and like just finishes it. And I was like, oh yeah. So even when you're like the greatest rock and roll band of all time, sometimes it's a little loose still. It's one of those things we've tried I can't even fucking tell you how many times we've tried to like just write. I mean, Keith Richards is one of the greatest riff makers of all time, but things that like actually stick out, the song Am I Pretty on American Candy, we were definitely like trying to at least channel that in some way. But then in the bridge of that song, the bass part is kind of this really funky, kind of groovy bass part. And I had just learned there's Mick Taylor was the guitar player for the Stones, but he played bass on probably my favorite song from them called Fingerprint File. It's the last song on It's Only Rock and Roll. And he played bass on that song. And it's just like the fucking sickest bass part. And I had learned it, and I was like, I'm just gonna rip this off. And then so the Am I Pretty bass part in our bridge is is kind of a tip our hat to that. Or at least I was trying to. I did it as good as I could, but it wasn't as cool. But I enjoy it still. It's just one of those things when, you know, they've been, like I said, they've been a huge influence on us forever, and we've always tried to like at least grab a little bit here and there, and definitely there's been some yo, they look fucking cool in this photo shoot, let's do something like that. But yeah, I mean, like it's so weird because a lot of their like even their fashion is so like it is kind of really American too, where like the cowboy boots and like some and like the jean, like just the way that they dress, it's like we're influenced. They came here and, you know, saw what was happening in America, brought it back to England, and then it's people like coming up after them, like I mean literally everyone, but like now we're looking at them as this thing, but it's like such a really American kind of look, which is it's interesting how that kind of give and take happens. I think we were just jamming it in sound check, and I have to say I feel like I gotta, whenever I do karaoke I end up doing a Stone song, and I feel like I can do at least a decent Mick, and I think we were just jamming in sound check. I mean, we still jam it kind of all the time, but I don't know, we were just playing it, and then we thought it would be cool to do. I don't really know why we did it. I think this was in like pioneer stage, and like literally anything went. Like it was like, hey, what's the craziest thing we could do? And that was it. And I sang part of it. I don't know why, but it was so fun. Like we covered them on the American Candy tour. We did Satisfaction during the show. So I guess we've actually covered them a few times, but yeah, I think it was just one of those things. It's like, hey, fuck it, let's play the Stones. We've met some people who know them. Gary, the guy who told me to listen to them, I think one of his buddies is Keith's guitar tech. So we've heard stories of him just through the vines of knowing other people, but never have met them. I would be terrified to. But I have a painting in my living room of Keith Richards that is pretty sweet. This girl painted it for me, and she was from Australia, and she sent it to us, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. So I guess I see him every day. I see Keith Richards every day. I say, hey, Keith, good morning. And then I go on with my morning and day. This is hard. And I ended up, for preparing for this, I was like just jamming some stuff last night. So I'm going to go from third being not my least favorite, but my third of this. So Goat's Head Soup was the first record that I really, really got into. And it's right after Exile, I think. I've watched interviews with them talking about it, and Keith seems to not enjoy the album like a whole lot, but I think it's some of their coolest stuff. That's probably my third. And then this is gonna be really hard because it's either Some Girls or Exile for second. But I feel like if you really want to know the Stones, Exile on Main Street is the one to go through. There's like 20 songs. It's a double album, and it's cool because that was the record that they got kicked out of England because of tax stuff. So they moved to France, and Keith bought this house right up on the ocean, and they recorded the whole record there in like this like sweaty basement. And I feel like you can like hear that. So I'll go with Exile as my second. And then my favorite of all time is Beggar's Banquet, which is funny because it was the last one I really got into because I saw it and it was right after their like it came out in 1968. So right before that was the I forgot what the Satan something record. So it was like they did this like weird like rip off of like Sgt. Pepper. And right before that, and I was like, oh God, like, and I was like, oh, they're still in their like weird I don't know, kind of hippie vibe. And then so I didn't listen to it forever, thinking it was kind of be like that still. And then I listened. It's awesome. It was great that I waited till kind of the last one to dive into, because it probably the second song, No Expectations, is probably my favorite Stone song. And so yeah, Beggar's Banquet's my favorite, I think.